Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at a pair of new Corsair power supplies. Now they may look very similar because I have reviewed the RM range in the past, but these are the new RMIs. They're the upgraded version of the original Corsair RM power supplies. Now there was originally, when the original RMs came out, there was a lot of kick-off about the fact that they didn't have full jack caps inside them. John Jarrell, Johnny Guru, however you want to put it, he went out and tried to explain how the difference between jack caps and Chinese caps, the margin is narrowed to such a point now that it's only really just their name in it, and that was how they managed to keep the prices down with the RMs. Was the fact that they used a lot of Chinese caps in there, but it didn't change, you know, really the way that they performed or anything. But they've made some changes to the RMs now, and one of the things that they have done is it's now all jack caps. Ensures long life and the best class performance throughout the life of the product. Now I am reading off some points because they do send us a reviewer's guide, and I do have to try and remember some key points, and I don't like to set scripts, so I kind of read it off the cuff, and you know, like the rest of us, sometimes I need to look down at some bullet points. But they with the RMIs now, these have got a 7-year warranty, whereas the original RMs, they only had a 5-year warranty. A 5-year warranty is still pretty much going to outlive most systems that I know. I'm lucky if I keep a rig 2 or 3 years, let alone 5 years or 7 years. Do you know what I mean? You're wanting to trade your children in by the time they're 7, aren't you? Surely. Then they're saying that they're rated for full output at 50 degrees C, whereas the original RMs were only 40. It's actually got a digital output on it now. It's not digitally controlled inside, but there's a digital output on the power supply so that you can use Corsair Link. And it just means that you can just plug the cable in and it just goes straight into your motherboard. Whereas with the original RMs, you needed to have the analog to digital converter to plug into it, which then you plugged your cable in, which went into your motherboard. So it just gets rid of all of that, and you've got a digital output straight on the power supply itself. Now, that's a great feature because it simplifies things, because the Link is actually really good. What I'm going to do is show you later on just how close the Link is to you know, a multi-thousand-pound bit of equipment like the power supply tester that we've got. Now Link is that good, it's literally, it's like within 1% of the actual test that we're going to be getting on this, which is brilliant for those of you at home, so that you can go in, you can check up on your system, check on the temperatures, check on the fan speed, maybe set some manual fan speed profiles, because you can actually do that now. You can look at your voltages, look at the your peak in and out on, you know, the wattage that you're pulling from the wall, the wattage that your system's actually pulling. There's so many things that you can do that now. And if you end up with like an AIO cooler in your system as well, you can link everything up. And if you end up getting the Corsair Link Commander as well, because they've got another little box that you can plug with your fans in as well, you can pretty much control the whole system from it. So they are adding more and more of these features in as time progresses, and I have to admit, I am thoroughly impressed with them, to the point, and I don't mind admitting this, with the RM750i, which is in our graphics card test rig, that's how we measure the load that the graphics cards put on the system now, because we can just do it all through Corsair Link. Now when it came out, it really wasn't that good, but they've come on in leaps and bounds with it now. It has got to the point where it is really, really, really good. Yes, didn't cut that at all. Really, really good. So we've got that, and we've said to you about the additional fan stuff. So yeah, we've covered all the bullet points. The other thing that I do need to say is we're going to be looking at the RM1000i and the RM750i. I did ask if I could have the entry-level 650i, but they couldn't get any to me in time for launch. But I'm hoping to look at that at a later date. They did say to me that they've sent me the 750 and the 1000 though. So actually they're two pretty good points there, because that's going to be most people looking for either 1 or 2 graphics cards. So 1 graphics card system, 2 graphics card system. Even if you were running a pair of Titan X's, you could probably end up getting away with this, but we will show you that in a minute. So the RM750i, I've now got the prices, even though in the conclusion that I've already filmed, I didn't, but we've got £107 for the 750i, and then we've got £139 for the 1000i. They're both gold rated power supplies. They're both fully modular. It's the first of the fully modulars in the Corsair lineup as well. And they're not yellow anymore. They're actually mostly white. But we'll have a look at these up close now, just to give you a quick look at them, and then we'll obviously move into the in-depth testing. First things first, look at the two boxes. This is one of the biggest differences. Obviously, there's a wattage difference, fine, but there's also a difference in cables as well. What we can see with the 1000 is you get two of the 8-pin CPU power cables, but you only get one on the 750. You get 8 PCI express cables, and that's because you have the 6+2, and they're like daisy chained, so that you can see that it'll be 4 cables, but then they've got the other one coming off of it, so you do get the 8 times. One thing I was surprised of with these is they are all daisy chained as well. There are no individual ones. Sometimes it's nice to have a few individual ones for you to be able to choose with. And with some of the higher end ones you do get that, but they're all daisy chain with the 1000, same as they are with the 750. But it says you've got 4 here, but that's actually 2 cables that are daisy chained. So 2 cables that are daisy chained on this one, 4 cables that are daisy chained on this one, then they double up, and then you can see that you've got 12 SATAs on that, 8 on this, 7 peripherals, 2 floppies, 11 peripherals on that, 12 SATAs and 2 floppies on that as well. So that's the difference with those. But also, you can see that when we put them side by side, that the 1000 watt does have another bank of connectors. So obviously it's got more connectors in the box, it needs more connectors on the actual power supply itself. Now we do have the 2 Corsair link connectors here, but and this you've got a little LED and it will flash when the link is working. This is the normal USB one, and this is just the extra one that you can have. But the cable's not in the box. You're not likely to use this. This is the one everyone's going to use. But you do have a fan test button on these, and all it does is when you press it, the fan just spins at max, which is like 900 RPM. So you just press that, it spins up, and it's just that is to literally just put your mind at rest if you think that, oh my god, it's feeling warm, should my fan be running, is it still working? You can press it, if the fan spins, you know everything's alright, and you've not got to worry, and that's literally it. Other than that, the only other new thing that we've got is we've got the white on the side. It's a lot whiter on the RM bit than it is back here. This is more of a grey, and there is a texture and a bit of design going on in there as well. There is another minor, very minor difference, and that's the power switch on the back, and that you can see that on the RM1000 you've got a much chunkier power switch on the back, whereas you've got what I would call a more normal one on the RM750. Okay, so Corsair do some individually braided cables, and these are the colours that they do. Sadly, I've only got this one for the gunmetal grey because I'm actually using the gunmetal grey kit in one of my test rigs, and I haven't got an individual 24 pin to put in it, but you can see this is the gunmetal grey anyway. They also do the black, a quite nice blue actually if you're into your blues. It's a kind of a not quite dark, not quite sky blue. I kind of like that. Obviously a nice white, ROG red, and then kind of a razory green. It's not quite an Nvidia green, but it's still really nice. But like I said, they are individually braided cables. It's a nylon braid rather than a like a fabric braid like you would get with the paracord. But they are direct replacement kits, and they're easily found online. There are other companies though, because people like Cable Mod have started making cables as well. So you can look out for all of those, but where the power supplies are fully modular, and you don't have any connectors in it from standard, it does mean that you'll have, if you bought a red kit, it does mean that your red kit would fit the power supply and go right from the very bottom, right the way up to the rest of your rig, rather than an extension where you only see the coloured bit at the end. This starts right down at the bottom. And we do have, like I said, that it goes in here, get them the right way around, they go in here and they look all lovely and splendiferous, and yeah, they're maze balls. So this is our test system. We've got the Sunmoon SM50i. It's my active load tester, which we can use to put very accurate loads on the power supplies, but we can also use this to measure everything as well, because there's some nice accurate results. The only thing that we need to use the laptop for up here is it's an external oscilloscope, and rather than just having a separate box, I've got one that connects via USB into my laptop so we can see the ripple on the rails. But now also what I can do is I've got a cable now, so I can connect the power supply up to my laptop, and then my laptop acts like your main rig would do with the Corsair Link software. So we can also have a look at the link options as well. Normally I would plough through and I would show you all of the results for 20%, 50% and 100%. But where we're doing two power supplies, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you the actual, I will skip through them very quickly in this type of scenario, but I will show you the graphs at the end and you'll see 20, 50 and 1,000, but we'll give you a nice, 20, 50 and 100, but we'll give you a nice in-depth look at the 100% results for both of the power supplies. So I'm going to try and find the mix of both, mix of both worlds, so we don't end up with an hour-long power supply video, which nobody wants really, do they? So this bit does show our voltages, but what we are most really concerned with at this point is our the wattage that we've got here, 20%, so 200 watts. And then up here we have the what's being pulled from the wall. So this is the output from the power supply, which is 200 watts, 20%. And then up here we've got what's being actually pulled from the wall. So you can see that we're basically losing about 18.2 watts inside the unit for it being on. And that gives us a 91.6/7% efficiency. It will dance about, there you go, 91.7% efficiency. But this is at 200 watts. What we'll do is we'll whiz through and I'll show you the other ones as well. So we decided to call this a 5.2% millivolt, because every now and then you will see it just dart up to that 5.2 millivolts. So that's what we've recorded, and that's what we're going to be putting in the graphs for 20%. Now on to the link. Now, obviously we were reporting a 91.7% efficiency on the power supply tester, which is going to be our accurate source. We can see here that this is saying it's at 92.07/92.01. So very close, very close. You could say it's within about 5 millivolts, or 0.05 millivolts, I should say, at times. So it's incredibly close there, and close enough, within a margin of error. We could live with that, especially considering this is software on your PC. It's a great source. Now also what we can see here is we've got power out max 204 watts, which it's saying we're actually pulling 200, so it's about 4 watts out on this. And then it's also saying that it's pulling 221.6 watts from the wall, and we're actually saying 218. So again, very close, not absolutely spot on, but within such a small tolerance that just being able to have the information on your PC is brilliant. What we can also see here is the temperature of the unit is at 27.4 and the fan isn't spinning. This is 50%, 500 watts, and what we can see with that is we've got a 92.5. It does flick around and go up. It actually gets, believe it or not, a little bit more efficient once it's been running for a little bit longer. So almost like once it's warmed up, seems to get more efficient. Doesn't take too long. It's obviously we're putting quite a lot of load on this quite quickly. When we move up to 50%, is actually quite a surprising story, because we get a 5.2 maximum on this as well, which is pretty astonishing really, when you're considering that we're pulling 30% more load now. So we've gone from 200 watts to 500 watts, and yet it's still only giving us a 5.2 millivolt maximum ripple. Back onto link. And first thing to look at here is 508 watts from the wall. We're actually pulling about 501.5. So the gap with the wattage here is extended a little bit. We do have a 546.3 from the wall. This is actually a little bit closer, because we're actually pulling about 542 from the wall. So that's not too bad. That's a little bit closer. And the link up here, it's saying, we're going to say 93% efficient. It's actually 92.5. So again, very close. Here we can see that where power supply temperature is slowly going up, 29.8 there, but we've still not got any fan speed or anything running at 500 watts. It's also been running now in a range of states for about half an hour, and you can feel that you can feel that the top of the power supply is ever so slightly warm to the hand if you run your hand across it, but still totally passive at 500 watt, and that's obviously got to be a hell of an achievement. But also when you think about the 92.5% efficiency as well, that's pretty damn stonking. Then we're going to also go through and look at 1000 watts, which is our full load. I will say that the fan has just started because we've put it on full load, and then we've got a 90% efficiency, absolute dead on that one. Up to 100% load now, 1000 watts, and we've recorded a 9.2 millivolt maximum ripple on the rails. Now, when I get to show you the graphs for all of this, you'll see that this is absolutely astonishingly good for a power supply at this price point. It's absolutely brilliant, and it's testament to the mission statement that Corsair had for these new RMI power supplies. 90.8% efficiency. We're actually registering on the unit itself about 90, so a little bit over the top there, but again, nothing too massive. It's never been a full percent difference. It says we're pulling 1100, well, so we're going to say 1110 watts, which is actually occasionally on here pretty much spot on. It's flicking between 5 and I've seen 15 as well. There you go, 15 just briefly, but it's actually 1110, so it's getting it in the middle pretty much spot on. And it says we're pulling 1004 watts from the wall, but we're actually pulling 999.9. So we're all doing pretty well with this. But what we can see here is the temperatures are actually starting to come down because the fan has started to spin up. We're at 912 RPM, and I don't think that is necessarily because of any temperature problems. I think it's probably a fan profile that they've set so that when it hits a higher wattage, it instantly starts to try and cool its, the fan spin up. But again, it doesn't really get hot. I'd love to just force stop the fan to find out if it would, like really start to get really properly warm. But the most important thing to take from this is the fan is running. We're running at 1000 watts, and the fan is pretty much inaudible, and that's to the point where I can put my ear up to it and then you can still hardly hear it. It's absolutely brilliant. So the quietness from the original RM series is still there, but the rest I think we're going to need to cover in the conclusion. Okay, so moving on to the 750 watt version. Maybe I should have done that one first, but never mind. So, first of all, we've set up our 20%, our 50% and our 100% again. So 20% on this one is 150 watts. You can see here 150 watts, which is being pulled from the unit, 167.7/9, oh, 180.3, there we go, from the wall. But you can see that we've got here, it was going up there to about 90%, there we go, 90.1. So I'm going to take 90.1, I'm actually going to change the result that I had on the piece of paper that I write down my results on. So we're going to go for 90.1 efficient at 20%. If we flick it up here, 375, 376, give or take. The ripple at 20%, we settled with 4.4 millivolts as a top end. I'm just watching it now to see if we get any more spikes or fluctuations. Oh, we did see, 6.5. We saw 5 then. I'm going to change my piece of paper. It might sound strange, but I run these results and I sit and watch them for a bit, and sometimes you can get a spike, and I always tend to take that spike as the our maximum. So there at 20%, we've got a 5 millivolt ripple. So onto link then, we can see that we're pulling, it's saying 152 watts. We're actually pulling about 151 just under. So again, within about a watt there. We're actually pulling 168 from the wall, and this one saying 167.3. So again, within like a watt. So that's pretty good. The efficiency is saying 90.84, and we're actually on 90 dead. So it's again within a percent. So that's absolutely spot on. It's actually really close. If we go up to 50%, 375-ish, it should be 375 for 50%, but we're actually on nearly 377. But anyway, so you can see with that we're getting pulling 412.1, that was for a second there, 412.5 from the wall. So that gives us a 92.5% efficiency. I'm changing all my results. These are slightly differently to when I took them before, but yeah, maximum of 91.5% efficient. So at 50%, we've seen a maximum of 6.8 millivolts ripple. Now, I'm not being joking with you peeps. This could be like almost 4 times higher, and I would have thought this was epic. Twice as high as this, and it would have still been stonking. So just the fact that we're below 10 on this is absolutely amazeballs. So on to 50%, 375 watts. We can see here that it's that was saying it was pulling 380 then, so that's a little bit out. There we go, look, 380. That's about 5 watts out. But it's on 376, I think, for a little bit there. 376 was actually pretty much spot on. So it's flicking between those two. It's saying 412 watts from the wall, which is pretty much absolute spot on actually. So that's pretty good. I'm not sure why this one flicks around so much, but the power from the wall stays pretty much spot on. But anyway, 92.18% efficient. That's a little bit over, about 1.4% out on that one. 30 degrees power supply temperature, still no fan running. I actually left this to run for quite a while to see whether it would the fan would spin up, but it hasn't at all on 375 watt. And to give you a kind of like a bit of a heads up, if you were running this power supply with a GTX 970, it would probably be pulling about 375, maybe 400 watt, depending on the rest of your system. If you were a Z97 user, it would be the lower end. So you could be gaming right now with this power supply and a 970, and the fan wouldn't even run. We go up one more time, 750 watts, absolutely max chat. The fan has just started as well. You can see that, meaning that we're pulling 844, right? Let's have a 800, yeah, but there we go, 844 watts from the wall. This does mean that we're getting 89.1% efficient, 89.2% efficient on an absolute top end there. So 89.2% efficient, 100% then, and we've seen a maximum of 10.8 millivolts of ripple at 750 watts. Bearing in mind that this is the unit's absolute maximum possible, and it's still only just going over 10 millivolts, is absolutely amazing. Okay, so as we can see here, 764 watts it's saying. It's actually dead on 750. So this on this time is out. But again, the power in from the wall, 845, is pretty much spot on. So this is pretty good. This is only just a little smidgen out. I very much doubt if you actually bought this power supply and you bought it for the right uses, that you'd ever really see it being used at the absolute top end of its usage anyway. The percentage here is saying 90%. Again, it's within kind of a percent out because it's actually 89.2. So pretty good. Also, we can see the fan is now running because we're running at maximum load. And the temperatures are now falling. They were 32 at first, and now they're starting to fall down because that fan's running, keeping the unit that little bit cooler. So, there we go. So with the 12 volt tests, it's actually quite a difficult one. As long as they don't budge too much, it's not something that I'm particularly going to be worried about. The difference between the voltages between the 20, 50 and 100, obviously when your rig's playing games and stuff, you don't want it fluctuating too much. You want the percentage to be as narrow as possible. So with like the AX1500i, for example, you've only got, you know, between 11.98 and then 12.03. Now they do step down a little bit at 100% down to that 12.02, but the fact that they're so close together around the 20% and 50% is pretty much spot on, and you couldn't really ask for any more from one of these for such a great value power supply. When we move on to the ripple tests, completely different kettle of fish. The ripple tests on these are absolutely phenomenal. To the point where, as you can see, the RM1000i actually outperforms the AX1500i, and I think that goes to show you just how much time and effort Corsair have put into this, considering that this is their kind of entry level fully modular power supply. It's only the gold rated one, it's not the platinum like the AX1500i was or anything. the ripple and the voltage suppression on these units are absolutely brilliant. The fact that they've gone above the Superflower ones again kind of shows you just how good they were. And if you go down to the bottom, just to show you how much they've changed, you can see that the lowest that we had on the original RM1000 was 11.9 millivolts, but the maximum that we had on the 100% was 45.4. So you could say on the 100% load that they're actually, you can see it's actually only like 25% of the ripple of that one. I think that makes it like 400 times more efficient. I think that's how you work it out anyway. But anyway, ripple on these are chuffing amazing, and the graph just goes to show you that. When it comes to efficiency, they're going to be down near the bottom of the graph because I've not done that many gold units. But the good thing that we can see here is the RM750i does beat the Superflower 650 watt gold, although we would kind of expect that within you know, a certain amount. But the best thing to point out here is the RM1000i is significantly better than the RM1000 that it replaces. Only a few percentage in it, but there's still a difference in those. And as the further up that you get up the graph, is where you go into the kind of platinums and the titanium rated power supplies. So that's the reason why they're figured like that. So the golds are always going to be fairly down near the bottom. But the fact it's beating other golds just goes to show you quite how good it is. Okay then peeps, so on to the conclusion. As I said at the beginning, oh actually no, we need to do the award first because I've been forgetting to do that. And without a doubt, it's the OC3D Gold Award for both of the units. As I showed you in the graph, the ripple on these is just, it's such a stark difference to the last range of power supplies, the original RMs. It's unbelievable. I mean, I still use the RM1000 in Orca because, you know, bits change about and they get moved around in rigs. A lot of the time, we end up changing things just for colours, to be fair. And that's something I do want to cover with these as well, as we will go into that. But the ripple is the thing that I need to talk to you about first because it's such a big change compared to the last generation. It's unreal. When Corsair said to me that was going to be their focus on these, was going to be making sure that they were electrically as best as performing as they possibly could be, I thought to myself we were going to be getting units where it was still going to be performing, you know, slightly worse than the AX1500i because obviously that's their flagship digital power supply, and I thought to myself we were going to be getting ripples kind of minimums of about 10 and then maximums around the 20 mark, and I honestly thought that would have been absolutely epic for them to have slotted in at that point. But what they've done is completely kind of sat me on my rear end in a quite stern fashion really, and I managed to say that without swearing. That gave me being able to control myself. But that ripple was like shockingly good. Like, oh my days, the RM1000 managed to put out lower ripple results than the £450 AX1500i. So it just goes to show you how much they have worked on this to make them, you know, electrically as clean and as, you know, great going as they possibly could do. And people may think just to, you know, start saying about, oh, it's only gold rated, they could have done this, they could have done that. Obviously they can do more because of the AX1500i, but the RMs are their entry level gold rated fully modular power supplies. It's the first of the fully modular power supplies, and they step up from there and you get the HXs and then you go into the AXIs. They're absolute, do you know what I mean? I don't think you could ask for as much more. There's a great range as well. They start at 650 watt. Obviously we've done the 750 watt and the 1000. The ripple on the 750 watt was actually slightly, and I only do mean slightly, higher than the 1000. And normally with smaller wattages it would be the opposite way round. But maybe the internals of the RM1000 are slightly more advanced. Now I'm not going to go into trying to explain why that possibly could be, because I am not Johnny Guru and I don't know, you know, I can't look at these things and read them like a book. My knowledge is very limited, and I'm just trying to you know, pass on my limited knowledge to you as best as I possibly can. So the best of my possible knowledge is the ripple is non-existent, which is amazing. They're on par, if not beating, the last generations of RMs efficiency-wise, but obviously we're only really going to be getting up to that kind of gold point anyway. The main selling point of the RMs last time was the fact that they were so ridiculously quiet. It was the first time Corsair had kind of brought power supplies in that were just nigh on silent. They stay passive for such a long time as well. You've seen us run these, and I've run them at 50% for half an hour in a room that was 24 degrees and they just didn't budge. They only, with our testing that we did, they only actually turned the fans on once we hit that 100% marker. So as I've said in some of the videos, a lot of you might buy the RM1000 or the RM750 and you might not ever actually see the fan spin, and I wouldn't really worry about that. If you do think, oh, it should have span, luckily on the newer ones they do have a fan speed test button, because there was a lot of people RMAing them back in the day because they didn't realise that they weren't actually meant to spin until they were required to. The other really good thing about these is compared to the original RM, they've made the link hookup much simpler with this, and you can literally just plug the USB in and it will work, and you can plug it into your board. It comes with the cable, plugs in, bish bash bosh, your link will pick it up, and you can keep an eye on the temperatures, the voltage, the efficiency, and it is actually within such a small margin of the tests that we got on this. It's like a 1% at very worst that we were away from the test that I had on the on my Sun Moon or on my oscilloscope. So it's just, you know, in that respect, not the oscilloscope, you know what I mean, I'm just rambling. But within such a small tolerance, it's one of those ones where I really wouldn't worry about it. And if you get something that's untoward, you'll know that, you know, your power supply was doing this for such a long period of time and then suddenly it's now doing this. So it will give you a really good thing to keep an eye on. The temperatures are great as well, and also in the summer, if you wanted to and you were worried about the fan, if you've got the Link software hooked up, you can go into Link and manually turn the fan on the power supply on should you want to as well. So that's another really great thing. The other thing that I was going to talk to you about was colour. And colour, I mean, I've got the RM1000 in Orca, and it's a yellow power supply and a pretty much predominantly white rig. Now I'm obviously going to favour these because they are white, and I do have a bit of a white fetish, but let's put things into context for everybody else. If you were going to buy a power supply and it was yellow, you might actually favour the white one, even if you were going to have a red wig, because the black and the white is slightly more understated. It's going to fit in with a broader scheme of things. But here's a little bit of a curveball for you that you're probably not going to have heard anywhere else when it comes to these power supplies. And that's, if you do buy this and you think to yourself, maybe I don't like the white so much and I would have preferred it to have been red. What you can do is get yourself some transparent vinyl online, and by vinyl I mean like this sticky stuff. You do it in a range of colours. You can get it in red, you can get it in blue, you can get it in green, and it's transparent. So what you then do is you just stick your transparent green over the top of this, and then all of a sudden all of the white on here will be looking green because it will be showing through that transparent vinyl. So it's a really, really simple mod that you can do to your power supply, and it will peel off again afterwards. So it won't affect your RMA either. How about that then, children? Obviously the other thing that I spoke to you about earlier on in the video is you do have the option of the Corsair individually braided cables that you can buy as well. Obviously they're Corsair individually braided cables, and I have shown you those. But the other thing to kind of put out there as well is there are aftermarket companies like Cable Mod with I want to say flex cord. The word is literally on the tip of my paracord. They've got paracord cables available from now, and they're also off-the-shelf kits, and I've reviewed them and they're awesome. The fact that they're paracord means they're cloth, they're all nice and thin, a wide range of cables. They also do mix of cables as well, so those could be well worth a look for you as well. So consider that as well. You've got a fully modular power supply. You think to yourself you want to change the colours in your rig, or you want to change the cable so everything all looks nice and tarty and lovely. You can literally buy them off the shelf, bish bash bosh, plug them in. And the best bit about fully modular power supplies compared to extensions is, boys and girls, they plug into the unit, so you get the colours right from the base of your power supply right up to everywhere they click in, rather than just the little bits of colour at the end, which only then end up adding more stuff for you to hide as well. And I think if you're going to be buying stuff like these units as well, I would look at those cable kits. Even if you only want a black or maybe a gunmetal grey one, so it's slightly understated, the fact that they're all individually braided and all look nice and pretty will add a nice little touch to your rig. If you're a bit of a, do you know what I mean, you've got everything looking pretty like a lot of us do. So, to recap, awesome prices. The RMs were very competitively priced anyway, and the RMIs are no different. I will put links underneath this as soon as I've got them to overclockers, because I've only got USD prices at the moment. They fit in with where the RMs were, but I'm waiting for some overclockers that have me some GBP prices as well. So very competitively priced, and like I said, I would almost use these as if you're building yourself a high-end system or you're a proper enthusiast. I would almost go as far as to say this is the point where your power supply purchases should start, and you should move on from here, unless you're on a ridiculously low budget. But then, you know, you're not going to be running the likes of like £300 graphics cards then anyway. Because let's not forget that your power supply is the heart of your system, and you should spend a decent amount of money on your power supply. I would actually tell you to spend more money on a lower wattage power supply than getting a power supply that's just higher wattage. You get the mean what I'm saying. Get a quality lower wattage power supply rather than a cheaper higher wattage power supply. So that would be my advice to you guys out there. I personally, and I do mean this, and not in a sense that I've worked with Corsair for so long, but before I was even reviewing, I always purchased Corsair power supplies as well. So that should be kind of a nice big statement. I've had faith in the power supply brand for such a long time, and they've never really made me bat an eyelid about it as well. So the fact that I now get sent them just makes me even happier. So we've got that. The ripple, oh my days, the ripple is just practically non-existent. So if that's your bugbear, if that's the thing that you're always looking for and you don't want it, you want as little of it as possible, amazing. And then the other thing, and it was what the RMs were great about in the first place as well, is that these things just don't make any noise. The fan hardly comes on, and when it does, you can barely hear it. You have to put your ear on it to be able to hear it. It's so quiet, it's unbelievable. And it's something I'm actually starting to realise now, because obviously I've been doing quite a few power supplies over the last kind of year or so, is that how quiet these things really are when you start to compare them to other brands is unreal. But for now at least, this is Tiny Tom Logan with the Corsair RMIs that I've just won. I'm going to give it to the whole range because they're amazing, but the RM1000, the RM750 I've got it, absolute no-brainer gold award. If you were wondering whether you should get one, get one. If you're looking for a white power supply, definitely should be on your list as well. But anyway, it's Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out.